Welcome to Training Group Live. We have, it's a special podcast today. On deck, Mr. Scott Arnburg.
Good morning, Joel.
Good morning. Scott, this is a bit different for a podcast. Or on the topic anyway.
I appreciate you, kind of doing this on short notice. This is my first official day as Area 3 Director, and I have the opportunity to get the word out and respond to our membership's concerns.
I love it. You can say as much or as little as you want. You've been getting a lot of messages. I know you've had a lot of phone calls, lengthy phone calls from fellow board members and area residents with concerns, questions, asking your stance on things. I know you've been tied up quite a bit.
Yes. And I do want to preface this conversation that the board did vote a majority vote to waive 10.2, so I am officially allowed to speak about the meeting prior to minutes being released. So no, I'm not breaking any rules. I'm still playing by the rules, and I want to be as transparent as possible for my tenure as Area 3 Director.
Well, I want to talk about that specifically because that was pretty interesting. So Yeeman put out it was an Instagram video is where I saw it, but
Yep.
saying 3/4 of the board members voted to waive confidentiality. So the board had to vote to make that happen.
Yes, that's outlined in bylaw 10.2, and it is stipulated a 3/4 vote. And so that did pass with a 6-2 margin.
How is this a usual thing? I don't remember this happening before. If it was, maybe I wasn't paying attention.
One of the longer term board members did chime in that it has been done a handful of times in the past, but no, this was done. This is the board listening to the members and wanting to respond and say, hey, we want more communication. We want more transparency. And as a group, they decided that was important, and we wanted to get the word out.
I think that's pretty fantastic.
Yep. It's definitely a step in the right direction.
It would be quite awesome if that happened after every board meeting. Being honest.
Well, yes, I would like to see that also. It's my intent to do little snippets like this with you each time. It's much easier to have someone to talk with than it is to
try a monologue
on my own. Yeah.
If I could ask, you don't have to answer. Was there any pushback about waiving confidentiality?
It was a long discussion, and the vote was not unanimous.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured that. So if I could ask one more, was there any main reason this was allowed? Was there any specific topic, or do you think it was just all the questioning in general? My impression is they're getting a lot of heat. Maybe that's too tough of a question to answer.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know it'd be appropriate to go into exact details, but I would say that there are some that didn't see a need to change, and the group as a whole is cognizant of the requests of the membership to provide more transparency, more timely communication. And Yi Min actually made the motion and kind of led the charge, and I applaud him for that. He stuck to his guns and
really good,
and showed some real leadership.
This would be awesome. This would be the normal. So, yeah, of course, I've got questions to ask you, and then you can just tell me if it's anything you can't talk about or don't want to talk about.
Yep.
So the other part I caught in Yeeman's video was you were a board member starting today. We're recording this on 3/1. So before today, you weren't, or the meeting happened last night. I'm dating this, but you weren't able to participate as a board member. You were just an observer. Is that correct?
So the meeting started at 6 Central Time, ended a little after 11. My official tenure started at midnight Eastern Time. So I actually, Kevin did depart the meeting, and I did take over right at the end. I did make my first initial motion as a USPSA board member, and it was a motion to adjourn.
Oh, boy.
But no, I was allowed to participate. I was allowed to ask questions.
Oh, cool.
I was allowed, I was not made to feel like my voice wasn't to be heard in this meeting.
That's encouraging.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I want to talk about the financials if we can.
Yep. Not a lot of details there. So according to the bylaws, the budget is not due until March 31st. My comment on that is it is what it is. That's what the bylaws say, and we don't have an option on whether or not we follow them. I can say that finances are at the top of all the board members' minds. Donna has given us a lot of information and is working to give us even more prior to the March meeting. Is there concerns? Yeah. Are we going to address it? Absolutely. I would just ask that the membership give me some time. I've taken over as chair of the finance committee, and I don't know what I don't know yet. I will be helping as much as possible. There are definitely some holes. I think our current vendor was less than stellar, and I'll be helping guide the board into some decisions to make sure that we're being good stewards of the org's assets.
So if you're chair of the finance committee, you're having, well, you have a committee, but you have a big voice into spending, or as much as how the USPSA's existing money is like invested or managed, or what does that actually look like? Or would that be all of the above?
All of the above. My number one priority is to the bylaws do not allow for a deficit budget without a 3/4 board vote. It's going to take a lot for me to ever vote yes for a deficit budget.
Mm-hmm.
So the budget is due by 3/31. The board has to approve it. I think many of the board members feel the same way. So we've just got some hard work ahead of us to make sure that, again, we have to be good stewards of the organization, the org's assets. Because I've dedicated 17 years of my life to this sport, and I want to be able to dedicate another 17 or 30 more. We've got the distinguished senior category, so I have a hopes of winning something when I'm 70, but I got a good 20 years to go for that, so no hurry.
Well, I think there's a couple things important to talk about. I mean, obviously Scott and I are friends, and we talk just about training and shooting and that kind of junk. But I mean, we're both kind of in the same boat. If USPSA went away tomorrow or went bankrupt, I don't really know what I would do with a large portion of my time.
Right.
Most of my friends in my friends group come from USPSA, or at least shooting, performance shooting, I guess you could call it. And yeah, I mean, so it's obviously really important to you also. And then I think it's quite worth mentioning that you do this professionally, as far as you manage people's finances, their retirement. You're very knowledgeable about the market trends. I mean, what you're sitting down with people, telling them if they can or can't retire, more or less. Yeah, I mean, so you
and helping with small business owners make good business decisions, and that's the thing. I would hope that my constituents understand. There's nothing personal here. My goal is to make the org better, stronger, and to be here for the next generation and the generation after that. I'm not a sponsored shooter. I pay my own way for everything. Because of my business, I've actually declined the company credit card. I don't plan on using any of the travel stipend. I do have a budget to help the clubs in my area, and that may be something I do, whether it's with RO classes or things like that. But before I can make any spending decisions on that, I got to know where the org as a whole is.
Yeah, makes sense. I think you're the right guy for the job. So I'm quite excited to know that they're interested in listening to feedback from you, and now that you'll have a say and have access to all the numbers. So anyway, I think that's a really good turn in the right direction.
Yeah. And I did go through, in preparation of coming onto the board, I went through multiple years of financial information, and I talked with a good friend of mine that is a CPA and is super knowledgeable, and he provided a ton of education for me to help me understand what was going on and to look at the trends, so that we can get ahead of this. yes, there are problems. No, I don't think everything's going to go away tomorrow. We're far enough ahead of this that we could come out of this just fine. And to be clear, some of this is market and economic forces. You know, I've been a club president for 17 years, and you know, my numbers over the last 2 years have been going down, and I think a lot of it is that shooter who goes to the Fleet Farm or the Sportsman's Warehouse or whatever the night before the match and picks up 100 rounds of ammo. That guy either can't afford it or it's not there to buy, and they're not shooting. And there's nothing the clubs have done wrong. There's nothing the org has done wrong. It's just a product of this current economy that our nation's in.
Well, plus inflation. If people have a family or the cost of everything that you like, literally everything you buy.
The fix for that is be an informed voter and go vote.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So people don't think I'm just throwing you underhanded pitches the whole time. I got one question. You don't have to reply if you don't want to. I've seen a lot of stuff online about, you know, like the board losing money as a whole, or what, like $800,000 to $1 million lost. Is it too soon have you looked at all the numbers? Do you have any comments or thoughts on that?
So running a budget, whether it be for an organization or your family or your personal finances, you know, if you hit the end of the year and your credit card debt is higher than it was last year, I think there is some value in going back through and seeing where you spent everything. But I think it's much more valuable to say, okay, here's how much money I'm going to get this year, how much I'm going to make unless I change my job, I add a side hustle or whatever. Here's what my spending has to be, and they have to be equal or the spending has to be less. What happened last year, and to get into the nuts and bolts and find out, oh my gosh, I spent $300 on sushi in December. Well, you know, that is valuable, but it's more what we do going forward that is going to have an impact on the bottom line.
So is a fair summary saying more than a witch hunt trying to go in the weeds, you're just trying to stop the bleeding and create positive spending habits going forward? Is that fair?
Right. USPSA cannot be like our government. We can't print money and spend it. You know, according to the bylaws, it takes extraordinary efforts from the board to approve a deficit budget. And our founding fathers put that in there on purpose. And we need to follow it. We need to have a balanced budget. And we have certain expenses that we're committed to. And when the money's gone, the money's gone. We just got to stop. We can't whip out the credit card and keep going.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, if I did that with my bank account, I would be in problems. So anything else along the financials that you want to talk about? I think that kind of covers most of the bases for now.
A little bit of patience. I know there's a lot of fervor online. You know, I believe that the board as a whole is aware there's a problem, and they know they're committed to doing something about it, but it's not something that can be done overnight.
Oh, I guess I have one more question after I say I've got nothing else. So as far as the budget, I'm the treasurer of our gun club, like proper, and our process is like I have to come up with a budget based on projected income, spending, present it to the board. They have to vote on it if they have any critiques, and that gets published for the membership. Does USPSA do anything similar? If people want to see the budget after it's approved, is that available for like a P&L type statement if people want to dig into that?
So the financials are posted on the website. It's uspsa.org. I think it's /financials, and that has everything up through 21 is posted there. The budget, I believe, will be posted. It does have to be approved. That's all outlined in the bylaws by March 31st.
That makes sense. All right. Other exciting things to talk about. The divisions.
Divisions. Limited optics is a go.
We've all been wanting limited optics. Everyone.
So for me personally, I'm indifferent. Me as a board member, hey, if it brings more members and more people to shoot, great. Do I think it'll water down the other divisions? Man, I have no idea. I've been in this sport long enough to see divisions peak and trough and up and down. it happens. Everyone wants the shiny new gun. So my only caution there is the board has set some, and the committee that came out with the limited optics rules has set some thresholds to make sure that we actually have the participation to support it.
I like that. So if that metric isn't met, then the division gets smoked at the end of the year. Is that correct?
Correct. If we don't meet the bar, then it would not be considered viable. And so if you're passionate about this, once it's officially a provisional division, start shooting it. Kind of put your money where your mouth is.
So that
But
starts on May 1st.
Yes. Be cautious that if you run out and buy a $10,000 LO gun, limited optics gun, and the division goes away, don't be mad that we didn't warn you.
So I don't know that I guess there's been anything published, and I guess you could talk about this. This is good. What is limited optics going to be? It's basically a CO gun that can be single action only. No compensator.
Single action only. The write-up, it was part of the voting, and I don't have all the details right in front of me, and so
Okay.
I'm just gonna say, hey, it's for sure it's a single action gun with mag wells, and then the rest of it, wait and see. I'm sure the board will have something detailed out very, very shortly, so that people get ready, and so that club leaders can understand. And I had a conversation with Andrew this morning. Hey, after April 1st, we're going to have to update all of our registrations on Practice Score because our club has I've built all the matches for the year.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got to go through and add limited optics as an option for all of those. And we'll run classifiers and we'll give people an opportunity to do it. And we'll see.
Well, I guess my personal viewpoint, I don't know that it's going to accomplish much, but I'm really happy about the metric to justify keeping it, that it's not just here to stay. So the metric to keep it, that would be judged by activity fees, correct?
Correct.
And that wouldn't be just shooting a classifier specifically. That would be you shooting a USPSA sanctioned match and your club setting an activity fee for you being a participant. Is that correct?
Correct. So match after match, right? So you can't shoot one and call it good. We want to look at trends across and make sure that there's actually enough demand for it. And I can't speak highly enough of Rick, the IT guy for the org. He is super knowledgeable. This is my first interaction with him, but it's pretty clear that he brings a lot to the table for the org.
Good. This is exciting. The other one, the one I really care about, production. It used to be the hot division. Anymore, nobody cares because iron sights aren't cool.
Yep.
Any updates on the magazine capacity?
So no change yet. The two things I would say is we need more feedback. There hasn't been a lot of feedback on production. What do you want? There's kind of three potential paths. Leave it alone. Set another arbitrary magazine limit, whether it be 15, 12, 17, whatever. And run what you brung as long as it fits the box. Personally, I don't know that we need to be a lot of change. A lot of the feedback I've gotten from my membership is part of the challenge of production is planning the reloads and the 10-round limit.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want the 10-round limit and you want iron sights, you can shoot limited.
That's true.
And that's the feedback I've gotten. I'll turn 51 in a week. My eyes tell me that I need to be shooting a dot. So I'm not going to mess in someone else's yard.
I get it. Yeah, I guess I'll give my 2 cents. I can't help myself. Stage design anymore has kind of suffered in some ways where there's a lot of high cap shooters designing stages. So you can go to a position. I'm not saying your match. I'm not saying my match, but travel around the country and see stages where you can go to a spot and shoot maybe upwards of 15 to 20 rounds without moving your feet much. So with that, production. There's been major matches I've went to where it kind of sucked shooting production because I was looking for just ways I could split things up to not have to stand and do reloads, but the plans were suboptimal and kind of goofy. So I would really like to see production 15 happen, just with the stage design issues that I see throughout the country, not even singling out any one match. That way we'd be in line with IPSC, and I really don't like capacity of the gun. So for instance, Walther PDP's 18 rounds. I think the CZ, they hold like what Shadow 2s or P10s are like 19 or 18. Yeah. Glock 17 or 34 is going to be 17 rounds. Depending on the gun, you're going to have one round different. Sorry, go ahead.
But honestly, is there a big difference between 17, 19, and 18?
Somebody's going to buy the gun that has more rounds. Look at all the people doing goofy stuff with CEO, getting like the 3D printed followers and the different springs and cutting half a coil. Look at flashlights. Like, I'll be straight. Well, I'm going on a tangent. I'll be straight with you. I got guns, identical guns side by side. One has a flashlight, one doesn't. And I'm shooting like doubles. I'm shooting very aggressively, trying to detect a difference. Like, I can't even detect a difference enough that I care. But if people perceive it to be an advantage, they will spend money on things they think is going to make them better, whether it does or doesn't. And I mean, that's not the board's fault if somebody feels like they have to buy something.
And I'm a capitalist at heart. And if you want to spend money on stuff that makes you happy, do it.
Yeah, I get it. Now I'd like to see production 15, though. I think that'd be good.
Well,
what else?
Sorry, you have an avenue for feedback to the board and fill out the feedback form and make your voice heard.
Yes.
The board, I think there's been a perception that the board operates in this island and makes decisions, and that's not the case. I can definitely say that all of the people in the meeting last night are very concerned about membership feedback and want to be receptive. And I think that's honestly why Lee Men led the charge to waive 10-2 and allow us as board members to get the word out and talk to our members as soon as possible.
Well, and I think that makes a lot of sense considering in the back of your mind, you'd almost have like mutiny on your brain where you're thinking like, well, there's divisions, there's financials, people are unhappy. It wouldn't be realistic for me to say after one board meeting, I expect you to have everything fixed, but at least an effort to be transparent and moving things in the right direction is a good step.
I think if I could sum it up just a little bit, I was concerned about the finances going into the meeting, and after listening to the people, they really, really do care. They're doing their absolute best to make sure the org is doing the right stuff. And I look forward to working with them. They're ultimately good people, and everyone needs to remember that and be cautious that you don't try to watch the world burn just to watch the world burn.
I agree. I don't want to be so cheesy to say we're all in this together, but if USPSA went away, I'd have a lot of free time that I'd be bored for. So yeah, I think it's in most people's interest.
Shoot trap or something, and man,
lame. I'm not doing that.
Me either.
No, it's in people's best interest to try to preserve it as opposed to burning it down. All right, what else? Should we talk about matches coming up? Because you're in charge of the area now, sir. These are all your problems.
Yep. So Area 3 match. Staff sign up went out. Please sign up. I know it's pretty cliche to say this match won't happen without the staff, but it will. I think we have a very good RO compensation policy, our staff package, per diem. We're doing a staff dinner. Big change this year, and I'm going to credit Matt Hopkins with the great job he did last year and doing the post-match survey. We listened. The price table's going away. We are going to work on competitor bags. We'll distribute prizes through the bags in a random draw, and then we're going to create a prize pool or a prize cash pool, and we're going to pay out cash by order of finish by division and class. So if Carry Optics, for instance, is 42% of the match entries, they will get 42% of the prize money pool. And we will have the bank cut checks 30 days out from the match. I will look at the registrations by division and allocate the prize pool, and then further allocate it by class. We are going to follow the USPSA rules that require a minimum of 10 in a division to recognize, a minimum of 10 in a class to recognize, and that will carry on all the way through categories. And we will pay cash. So at awards, you'll get your plaque and you'll get a check.
So my plan to be that limited 10 heat is going to swoop in and take all the money isn't going to work if no one else is shooting limited 10s, what you're saying.
You better find 9 other buds. And then, if we have a 300-person match, your 10 is, whatever the math is what, 2% of the prize pool. And then after the match, we will be publishing a P&L that shows where the money all went.
I love it.
So registration for the Area 3 match goes out March 15th. It goes live. We have some very generous sponsors that are already working with us to come on board. Glock and
Hunters HD.
Hunters HD, boy.
Brian's fantastic.
Just a shout out to them.
Yeah.
Complete surprise to me. My club renewed, and we got our packet from HQ yesterday. And there's a cert in there from Hunters HD Gold for $200 off a set of glasses. And that's something that Brian contacted the board and did. So can't speak highly enough of that guy. He supports the sport, and he's just an all-around good guy.
Yep.
So, if you are a member and you see Brian at a match, and I know he's doing something for ROs also. So if you see him at a match, try out his glasses. They're great. Fair warning, I wear 2 pair, but I paid for them. So, it's not that I was giving them. I paid my money for them, and they're great. But also tell Brian you appreciate what he does to support us.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What else? Oh, and just to reiterate, I guess since I'm the sponsorship coordinator, whatever guy, the specifically talking about the feedback with the prize table, where I want to very specifically address that. And I get it, because I've been the guy sitting there under the shelter. You're waiting for your name to get called. Everyone else is already talking because they're 50 places behind you, or they've already walked the table and they're done. They finished ahead of me and they're just talking to their homeboys. And it's tough to hear your name. And then it's like, which table's which? And when do I go? And, oh, this person was before me and it's hot out. And I want to get home because it's already 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock. I got a couple-hour drive to get home or to get to my flight. So we've had a lot of back and forth to just alleviate all that. Everyone will get a bag. And if it's so let's say you have a Hornady press. We're not going to fit that in a bag, but you'll have a certificate in the bag. Like, hey, you want a Hornady press. This is cool. Take this certificate to this place to get your press. So.
And what that's going to allow us to do is to make sure that we have a good social media presence with our sponsors. So we'll have an opportunity when they pick up their prize, because they'll be doing it all throughout the match.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have an opportunity to get a picture of the recipient with the prize. And that does 2 things. One, it documents who got it so that we can say, hey, Scott and Joel didn't fill their car up with prize support items. Bob from Kansas got it.
Yep.
Great. And 2, it allows us to provide that social media splash to try to drive some return on investment for our sponsors. It's very, very hard as a business owner to track, what do I get for sponsoring a match and that advertisement, the dollars that I'm allocating to helping this match. And so I want to try to make sure that we do the best job we can on that.
And it's fun because we both have different things that are important to us. You're looking at the return on investment and vendors, which is, I do care about that too. But I'm also looking at it from the competitor guy. It's 100 degrees, maybe not,
right.
But you're in the shade. It's like,
right.
Hey, I need to get home. I've got work tomorrow, whatever. So this way we could accomplish both things. The vendors, we could appreciate the vendors and show them support, hopefully give them more return on investment. Because at some point, like, they're just donating stuff. They don't have to. They're not required to. This is just them being generous to us.
Right.
And then 2, if people don't want to stay for awards, once you get your, you finish with your squad for the day, then you could go home and you've walked the prize table. You have a flight that leaves earlier in the day, or you don't want to stay or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, it just try to alleviate the pain point. Is this how we're going to do it every year? I don't know.
We'll see what feedback we get after this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a big pain point we got for feedback. Okay, so after Area 3, we should talk about the Great Plains section match.
Great Plains, I'm range master for Great Plains Sectional. My understanding, the match is filled. I'm super happy for their success. Andy and his team, I'm sure will put on a great match. I look forward to shooting it. Cornhusker is filling. It's registration's open for that.
It is. I have to look. I know it's fairly full. I think there's still some spots left. I don't know how many.
Iowa sectional open today. As of right now, we have about 60 entries.
I didn't even realize it opened today. Oh boy, I better get on that.
Yeah, it opened today. We've got a little over 60 entries since 6 a.m. Some people are Johnny on the spot with that open time. So good.
Cool.
That's very flattering to me to see that kind of response. I look forward to see what we get from Area 3 when it opens in 2 weeks.
Love it. Good. Anything else you want to discuss today?
What are you doing for training?
I'm full send dot mode now. So doing all right, tangent. It makes me sad. Looking at the match at my club, the Cornhusker match, there are, last time I checked, 8 people shooting production, which makes me very sad. I know I'm sounding old, but iron sights aren't cool anymore. So especially like classes, it's uncommon to have more than a couple people with iron sights. So anyway, shooting the Walther still, I really like those. So still training with the red dot and learning a new gun, which has been really good. The main things for me are just reacting to the color of the sight and not wanting to be a perfectionist. So getting a little bit of tangent, but on targets I perceive to be closer medium, which change from person to person, just seeing the color red from my dot and then starting to shred, as opposed to waiting till the dot stops stable and it looks like a perfectly round dot, or staring at it. A lot of people do that. Yeah, that's super common.
I'm over aiming.
Yes.
And I shot a steel challenge match a week or so ago, and I entered with my CO gun in both open and carry optics, and by about the 6th stage, I finally started to, break in the shot just as I'm starting to see the flash of red, and my times picked up appreciably. I think steel's not my first love, but it is a great way to force some. The targets aren't huge, and right away if you hit them or not.
Bro, like pendulum, that stage is tough. I don't care who you are. To shoot it like repeatedly good.
And to do it well, you can't wait to hear.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be transitioning on and making sure you're breaking that. I'm still working on grip pressure a lot in dry fire. And I've even carried it on to my walkthroughs at a stage to make sure that I'm just crushing with my offhand all the time. We did the class last July, and that was one of the big things is my grip was terrible. So I'm focusing real hard on grip. I'm trying to dry fire. I set my timer 20 minutes every day minimum. Turn on some music to, mostly to keep the family away so I can have a few minutes of peace. Having 3 teens in the house, occasionally things get a little exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talked about the dry fire grip. I think that's worth talking about briefly. I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm just going to use you as an example of what not to do. So what previously, I know, sorry, I can't help myself. Scott, very common, this happens in classes. Someone draws the gun, and then when they start shooting and the gun goes off, like, oh crap, and then they clamp down, you see a change in the way the gun recoils. Yep. So their habit is they draw the gun and it looks fine, I suppose. That's their grip from dry fire. But then once the gun actually goes off and they have to hang on to it, then their grip changes. So the habit, Scott, and me, a lot of people work on is drawing the gun the way you want to hold it when you're actually firing live ammo. So you already have the right pressures. You don't have to apply that or change it.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that I want to train to the point that the grip is subconscious and it's there before the gun is necessarily on target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it becomes
building the grip halfway up.
Yeah. So a good drill I recommend for people like in dry fire, even at home, is just don't even press the trigger, but just drawing the gun to sight picture, and then at the end just assessing your grip, so you could assess the placement of your hands and the pressures. And then you gotta, if you like a part time or 1 second or 1-2 wherever you're at, 0.8, draw the gun, and then at the end you just assess the pressures and is this correct or not. Don't even press the trigger, and then just kind of keep doing that as you do different dry fire drills, but really trying to build the skill where that's just the way you draw the gun. You draw the gun and it has the pressure you want. It becomes a habit.
The other thing I'm working on is not giving up in dry fire on bad reps. Miss your grip, transit, do your mini stage wrong. Don't give up. That's going to happen on the clock. And if you're used to giving up, there'll be a pause there and it'll kill you. Time-wise. Not so much on the streets.
This is true. I'm going to get killed in the streets. Yeah, I think that's very good. So otherwise, I mean, for me, my training is basically, if I was going to simplify it, it's just grip and vision. Normally, most things I'm working on in training are you could say different word games and explain it differently or justify it differently ways, but gripping the gun properly and then making sure I pick precise spots. I want like a coin-size spot on the target I want to hit. So like even that close, fast, really nasty shooting where it's 7 yards, 5 yards, whatever, the close stuff, I'm still trying to find the perforated letter A on the targets. And I'm not just shooting at the big brown target. We're shooting at a target the size of a dinner plate, kind of. I'm making sure that I actually find the spots that I want to hit. And it's interesting. So like the Osceola table at your club has been at the Iowa section, been a staple for several years. And I used to, maybe when I was less smart, I'd go for broke on those. And I've had like 16 and 18 hit factors on those stages.
Yep.
And even looking at the footage, again, I'm not I guess I am patting myself on the back. A lot of times, I mean, I'll have hits on those targets that are 1 to 2, maybe at the most like 2.5 inches apart. And they're mostly in the center because like that's where I was looking and that's where the bullets just go because the target's so close. It's not like the guns, even if you have a little bit suboptimal grip, the gun doesn't recoil, crazy or anything. It's just the bullets were clustering where I was looking on those targets. And if people try to go really fast or like the Steel Challenge, Smoke and Hope, those big plates, you think, man, those big rectangles, how could you even miss those? Bro, so many people miss those because they aim at the whole plate. And they think, I'll just swing my gun through and I'll just look maybe over the top of my gun or maybe just looking through the window of their optic, but not even seeing the color of it at all. It's very easy to have mistakes and misses.
For steel, I aim at the bolt.
Yeah.
I aim at the bolt. Or I pick if it's the second run through. The first run through is the hardest because there's nothing to aim at.
Mm-hmm.
Second run through, there's a bullet strike to aim at.
If it went in the right spot.
Well, if it's on the target, it went in the right spot, right?
This is true.
If you can hit the same spot every time, it's a hit.
Sometimes on a popper, it's weird how people pick up on little dumb things, but I'll even see a little crater or where the steel looks deformed, and I'll remember seeing little craters or little like divots on the steel because that was the spot I was looking at. Especially on especially steel minis or a lot of the easier targets, big poppers, people just aim at the color or the shape instead of really picking out the center of like that calibration circle that they want to hit. Very cool.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to record a quick podcast with me.
I appreciate you coming on. This was good.
To working with the rest of the board and serving the membership for the next 3 years. And I think Area 3 is going to be fun. I've had a lot of conversations with Matt and Jim on stage ideas. Matt, I think, is going to do another bang-up job. I'm very fortunate to have him coming on board doing the stages. And you with Prize Table. I think we've got a great team. keep an eye out on social media. I will be doing a Area 3 section coordinators meeting, another video call. And my tentative plan is to open that up to have members that want to attend, and I'll just provide an update on Area 3, go into some more details, and make sure that the section coordinators feel like they have a voice in how the area is run.
I love it. No, transparency is good. Then people, at least they know what's going on, and if they want to provide their opinion or viewpoint, they can. This is good.
My only warning is if you come to the meeting and voice your mind, be prepared to put some work into your making your idea happen.
Sure.
I'm happy to work with you, but we got to work together.
Yeah, no, for sure. Good. Well, thank you again for taking the time. I think this was good. I'll get this dropped today, and then if people have questions, they want to interact with you. Do you have a preference? Do you want it to be the Area 3 email? Do you want them to
just use the Area 3 email? And
is that Area 3 at USPSA.org?
I believe so. Or my personal is just S and my last name ARNBURG at gmail.com. That works too.
Perfect.
And shoot me an email. My preference is a lot of times I'll just reply with my cell phone number and let's have a conversation.
Sounds awesome. Cool. Scott, thank you again for your time. This was good.
Thanks, Joel. Have a great day.